So natural hair is a hot topic here on the internet because of just how controversial it can be, especially considering everyone's opinions. And I think the thing about it is that people constantly try to have these conversations because they are so looming without actually taking the time to thoroughly address the elephant in the room. So today we're going to be talking about the idea of natural hair being childish, because the people of the internet have put out their think pieces, and while there is a lot of discourse happening, I really want to dive deep into the reason why as a community we seem to typecast our natural hair in a bunch of different ways, which ends up and has greatly affected the movement as a whole. And before we get started, I want to thank Readyhubb for sponsoring today's video. Hey guys, it's Cam. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you are new. If you're ready to get into some commentary and chat about some hot topics on the internet recently, definitely stay tuned and subscribe for more. All right, let's get into it. When I first saw this conversation come up on my TikTok, I was a little bit flabbergasted, just a little bit, but also at the same time, I kind of see stuff like this coming because I think in the past there have been conversations on the internet about people seeing their natural hair as childish, and more specifically referring to the fact that certain hairstyles within natural hair is childish, not necessarily the hair in and of itself. And what I've been seeing a lot has been this idea that your hair doesn't necessarily go with your outfit, or your hair maybe not being seen as a suitable option because its maturity is lesser than certain other styles.
I literally have seen women who wear extensions, wigs, and weaves call girls who are natural or say, oh my gosh, I can't do that natural stuff because being natural is for broke people. I've seen people call natural hair childish. I've seen people say, oh my gosh, you wear your type 4 hair out, especially type 4 hair, specifically 4C. They were like, oh my gosh, I can't wear my hair out like that. My hair could never. One of the reasons why I personally care, and I'm sure a lot of other naturals can vouch and say the same thing, is something I look at is representation and also future generations in media, music, film. I see that many black women wearing their natural hair out. I personally feel like should be a bit more normalized because it's not. And younger girls, especially in teenagers, don't really get to see that. I know, and now that I think about it, I did not get to see, and I'm only 22, I'm not that old, I didn't get to see that much representation or see that many girls wear their natural hair out in media or curly hair out in media. Because so many of us hate our natural hair, we shame the people that actually do wear their hair texture out. And the reason why they shame the people that actually wear their hair texture out is because they themselves hate their own hair, so they want to make people also feel like that. It's so many layers to the conversation, and all I'm gonna say is give some grace. They're saying that it's not black and white, it's so many layers and so much in between.
And because I've been seeing everyone and their mother, especially in the natural hair community on TikTok, talk about it, I want to go ahead and start the conversation because I definitely have thoughts, and I know a lot of you guys have thoughts, and I tend to try to approach natural hair from a very neutral position, but also from the perspective of being able to understand all different sides of the playing field. So the first thing within the conversation that I want to tackle is the juxtaposition between the infantilization of Afro textures and the adultification of black girls. Because when I tell you the amount of videos that I have watched that have just been talking alone about how these coily or tightly curled textures are highly associated with an aspect of youth, the more I feel a little bit dumbfounded, simply because I think in the same way that we tend to adultify black girls when they are in their youth, and we use certain labels to describe the behaviors that we may be seeing or even the attitudes and actions. So for instance, if a black girl displays a more sassy character or has a certain personality that people associate with adults, then they will be called either too grown or they'll be called fast. If they have a certain sense of style or fashion that they like to wear, the same label becomes applied. Whereas whenever we think about different hairstyles specifically, but because now people are starting to incorporate natural hair as a whole, so even me now wearing my natural hair as it is could be seen as a childish feat because of other styles that we have started to associate with more maturity and the likeness of a grown-up.
Another thing about looking young for your age, specifically as a black woman, is like, I know if I put on a frontal, I'm gonna look older. If I get a frontal, get lash extensions, not strips, I will probably look my age, that is 22. But I don't want to have to compromise my naturalist hairstyles for looking older, you know what I mean? Like, I know if I get braids, that's why I was so hesitant on getting braids before, because I was like, I'm gonna look younger. if I do my curly hair, I'm gonna look younger. But like, I don't care anymore. So that was it.
And part of me also thinks that the conversation about wigs and weaves has a lot to do with it, because if we think about the idea of black girls wearing wigs and weaves, most of the time we're not seeing them wearing them in Afro textured hair or kinky textured hair, curly textured hair, whatever the case may be. A lot of times we're seeing the 40-inch straight or Brazilian wavy or Burmese curly bust downs. Like, that's what we're seeing, and we're not necessarily seeing a wig or wigs that look either like this or even more textured than what my hair is. And also another thing that I think is important to identify here is the fact that whenever it comes time to celebrate a big event, whether that be a birthday or a graduation, any type of thing that is signifying a sort of coming of age, a lot of the times, especially in the black community, and even before the natural hair movement became popular, but now as well, we tend to take our daughters or our sisters or ourselves over to the salon to switch it up and to get something that is going to be an indication of the thing that we're celebrating. And like I said, a lot of it is that coming of age situation. And what do? We hop in the chair and we get ourselves pressed. And so I think that's probably the reason why a lot of it is turning into this whole thing of infantilizing Afro textures, because of the fact that they are so much more associated with youth. For instance, even when you were a child and getting a silk press, a lot of the times if you kept your hair nice, silky, and straight, I know at least for me and maybe for you, but I think it's more universal than sometimes we may realize, a lot of the times it would be considered too grown unless you got the ends bumped. And if you weren't getting your ends bumped, then you were getting the Shirley Temple curls put in. And I used to cry. I used to be so frustrated whenever my mother would tell that lady to put those curls in my hair, because I was like, why can I not just wear it straight? Why? And I know now a lot of people are really loving the bumped ends, but I think a lot of us have kind of been a little bit traumatized in that area, because it was always this big thing of like not wanting those ends to be bumped. You wanted to really rock that silky straight hair. You wanted people to see how long your hair was, period. So I think there's something to be said whenever we consider straight hair to be the default pertaining to coming of age and natural hair being associated with the youth. But I think because we are, as a community, especially people that have the kinky or coily textures, black people, and we also have to deal with the adultification of black girls, it is a very interesting dichotomy or juxtaposition that comes together when you're trying to analyze exactly the reason why people are feeling like natural hair is childish, because why or why not? Something that I also had to consider was this a chronically online take? Is this something that people are just talking about because we're on TikTok and we have nothing better to do? But when I submit this to a lot of my black girlfriends, we had a really awesome conversation and discourse about the fact that they too have felt certain ways growing up whenever they were allowed to get their hair straightened, or whenever they had to wear their natural hair, whether that be out and about or even in those cute little girl natural hairstyles that our moms used to put our hair in, that I think because we associate them with our youth, because that's how our mothers styled our hair when we were young, I think we perpetuate those same ideals and we bring that into our adulthood because it is so attached to our developmental years. And I think when we think about our community, because of our hair having to require a certain type and amount of maintenance, which is much different than say our white counterparts, where they can maybe just throw their hair back in a ponytail or put it up in a high bun or just wear their hair down to school or maybe put some curls in it or whatever the case may be. When they are young girls, I think because our parents do our hair in these little styles as a way to maintain it throughout the week, as a way to manage it, because we may have siblings or we may just have other things to do, whether that be sports or extracurricular activities, where we can't just be out here with our hair out running wild, because the thing about that is it's going to be tangled and it's going to be a whole big thing for our parents to handle. And then if we're tender-headed, it's just going to be a whole hot mess. Black parents, especially my mom, did not want to have to deal with me screaming, crying, her trying to comb through my hair, because I wanted to go out and actually be a child and experience things at my hair's expense. And so I definitely think to some level it is an expression of growing up by growing out of natural hair. But I think because of the natural hair movement, we found ourselves in a place where we want to learn how to take care of our hair. We want to learn how to manage it. We want it to be healthy. We want to be able to experience our hair in its natural state, because of the way that history has perpetuated certain things such as assimilation, to where we had to wear relaxers in order to be accepted. We had to wear our hair straight in order to be accepted. We had to wear certain protective styles that were not seen as more exotic so that we could be in spaces like school and work and extracurricular activities that were not predominantly black. And so I think not only in the past has growing out of natural hair been a signifier of the coming of age, but also when we get into the fact that a lot of people view black women and black girls specifically as being much older than they are, or at least not taking their humanity seriously in terms of that fragility part of it, it's definitely an interesting thing. Shout out to Readyhubb for sponsoring today's video. They are a software designed to make the process of booking appointments with stylists and beauty professionals stress-free. With the Readyhubb app, you can discover professionals near you, read real reviews, make secure payments, and book appointments with confidence. And the best part about it is that they don't charge any booking fees or commissions, so it's a hassle-free solution to stressing out about booking beauty. Plus, they're a black-owned tech company. So definitely if you are a beauty enthusiast, or even if you are a stylist that offers beauty services, run and go grab that Readyhubb app, because it's going to make everything about what you do and what you're trying to accomplish much easier. And so now I want to get into the role of social media, because like I was mentioning before, we have the conversation about the wigs and the weaves and the protective styles, etc., etc. But I want to pose the question to you: does life imitate art, or does art imitate life? Because something that I was thinking about when I was reflecting on this topic was the fact that a lot of us have certain preferences, and that's the reason why we do what we do with our hair. You know, throughout this entire discourse on TikTok, I've seen a lot of people commenting just about how they prefer to have their hair a certain way because it fits their lifestyle, or because it fits their perception of themselves, or because it just fits what they are feeling in any given season. And while that is okay, a lot of the times I do wonder, do we perpetuate certain things in social media because it's our preference, or do we prefer certain things because that's what's shoved down our throats through social media?
Just talking about the natural hair warriors. Don't let one of them see you with straight hair. They gonna think you anti-black, anti-fro, you hate your blackness. Don't nobody got 5 hours every weekend to wash.
I actually follow this girl, so I'm really not offended for real. But look, when it comes to the natural hair warrior, let me say this: I'm a natural hair warrior because I prefer that black women learn to love our hair, learn to love our texture specifically, because no one's gonna love our hair if we don't even love our hair. So I think that's the main thing. But also I understand the perspective of like, we want to perm our hair, we want our silk press, you know, and I get that, but it does come from assimilation. It does come from a place of us being forced to do so for so long, and now we feel like that's just what looks right. Because the argument that it takes 5 hours to do your hair is invalid. I have locks, so best believe it don't take nothing but me waking up, period, point blank. This whole idea that, you know what I'm saying, your hair has to have the perfect coil to it, you know what I'm saying, you got to be up all night doing it, like, yeah, I don't think so. Maybe on wash days, you know what I'm saying, but I feel like we use these excuses because we just simply, if you just want to perm your hair, you just want to straighten it, okay, cool, like, that's fine. But there's nothing wrong with black women who prefer natural hair, because I think another issue that people miss is that it's really not what kind of hair you wearing, it's the fact that your hair will be breaking off, burnt and crispy to your ear, to the top of your ear, and you gonna wear it like that as opposed to just going natural because you would prefer that over natural, or you prefer to wear a bad wig over natural, or you prefer literally anything else possible in the whole world except for your natural hair because you hate it that much. That's the difference between, oh, I just like wearing my hair different ways, or I just like my hair straight, and I would prefer this even in its worst state. Even if my hair is burnt, fried, and laid to the side, I prefer that over my natural hair. That's when you begin to have the issue.
And I have looked into this a little bit because I think some phenomenons that we can consider when we're asking ourselves this question is the rise of everyone getting locks. I don't know if it's called like the lock movement or anything like that, but just the rise of everybody getting locks and locks becoming more accepted within our society. I think there was a spike and a boom a few years back, and now all of a sudden it's not as negatively stereotyped as it has been in the past. And I think we have social media to thank for that. But I also think in addition to that, we have social media to thank for something like the rise in the wigs and the weaves, not only because we're seeing a lot of the more prominent influencers and celebrities rocking these types of styles and not necessarily wearing natural hair, but we're also seeing, I think, having those types of hairstyles as being a sign of money and status and luxury and wealth and other things like that, because who can afford a $300-400 wig and then afford to go get it installed by one of the top stylists so that it can look like it's actually coming out of your scalp? You can't do that unless you got money like that for real. beneficial. And so I think in a way, because we're constantly trying to perpetuate the lifestyles that we see within social media, it starts to become natural to want things that you're consistently seeing. But I also think there's another idea that sometimes natural hair is difficult, and I think the idea that natural hair is difficult has been a development of sorts over time because of how the natural hair movement rose and started, and we saw people doing a lot to try and figure out how to really take care of their hair and manage it and get it to grow and be healthy and do all of the things. But because we were all learning at the same time and we were all trying to grow together and none of us really knew anything that was going on, we put in a lot, and there's a lot of misinformation that spread around. There's a lot happening. There's people just absolutely maybe doing a little bit, a tad too much, just tad too much. And because of that, we found ourselves in a place where natural hair began to become highly overwhelming. And through that overwhelming feeling, we found a way to kind of tackle our natural hair or deal with our natural hair in a way that didn't require us to actually deal with it. Hence the wigs and the weaves, hence the silk press, because not only can you either find a stylist and go there and get your hair pressed out, but you can heat train your hair in order to get it to be a lot more manageable so that you can do your silk presses at home and you can maintain that style so that you don't have to put in as much work or the work that it would require in order to take care of your natural hair.
People seem to think that I hate my curly hair or that I want to be more white by doing.
When are we going to admit that wearing our hair in its natural state majority of the time is draining?
I love this conversation, and I love that we are finally being honest and having candid conversations about the realities of the upkeep that inherently comes with taking care of your natural hair. But I do think that we're still ignoring a major elephant in the room, which is that if it were actually socially acceptable for us to wear our hair in its actual natural state, I'm talking no braid outs, no finger coiling, no wash and go, no stretching, no heat, none of the crazy routines that we go through to tame our natural hair, it wouldn't be this hard. If it was considered cute to wear our hair naturally, and I mean like truly naturally, because I think we use the word naturally to describe hair that hasn't been like chemically processed or heat damaged, but most of the natural girls aren't really wearing their hair in its true natural state, if we really want to be honest with ourselves. And I don't think a lot of people are ready for that conversation. I've seen a lot of conversations on like edges and how we shouldn't feel like we have to lay our edges every single day, especially like us type 4 girls, because sometimes we're trying so hard to get our hair to do something that it's not naturally meant to do. And Lip Gloss, the content creator who we miss dearly, used to touch on this a lot. Like even me, when I have braids, when they start getting older and they start getting less neat in the front, I get so frustrated because I feel like it just doesn't look as clean, which is so sad because it's literally just my hair. Like that's how it grows out of my head. It's not meant to be neat. So for me, I feel like it's time that we start being actually honest with ourselves about the fact that most of us don't wear our hair in its natural state, and that's okay. It will probably be a very long time before Black women feel comfortable enough to wear their hair without manipulating it in some kind of way, and that's not our fault. You are in no place to judge any woman who chooses to wear her hair in an unnatural state just because it's different from your unnatural state.
But another question that I have asked in the past and I've had in conversations with some of my friends is, does the amount of time that you take to either heat train your hair, learn how to style your hair, or lay your wigs and do all the things take away from the amount of time that you could spend learning how to care for your natural hair? And how do those two things intersect in a way that causes us to feel as though our natural hair is too much work? Because sometimes when I look at the weaves and the wigs and the silk presses and all the things, it seems highly overwhelming for me because I'm constantly worrying about what's going to happen to my edges, what's going to happen to my natural curl pattern, how am I going to make sure that everything looks right and things are looking natural and I'm looking good and all the things when I have taken and invested the time to do my natural hair. And I'm not saying one thing or the other is more right or wrong. This is just my experience. But when I look at my natural hair, I find peace in knowing that I invested time to figure out how to do it, and now it takes me no time at all and I don't have to worry about what's going on because I've built that type of relationship with my hair. And so I just wonder, like, in the conversation about time, what really takes the least amount of time? Is that putting your hair away, or is that learning truly how to manage it and building that healthy relationship? And in the long run, what is more beneficial, if any? And so naturally I can't talk about this without touching on colorism and texturism, because that has been a big thing within the natural hair community, I think since the beginning, since when it started. Obviously as a black community we already deal with colorism, but then when you enter the natural hair movement we deal with the texturism aspect of it. And when that comes into play, I think it also causes us to have to deal with the fact that certain hair types are seen as more preferable, or seen as more manageable, or seen as better, or are seen as good, and others are simply not.
No other group of people care as much as black people do with how their women do their hair.
No other group of people is en masse 90% of the time not wearing their natural hair texture. It's really disingenuous to compare someone who has straight hair or a looser hair texture wearing a few tracks to add more volume to their hair or changing their hair color, to black women going through carcinogenic chemical treatments to get straight hair, to black women risking traction alopecia, to black women being unable to go outside with their naturally curly afros, to black women being socially and culturally normalized as always wearing wigs and weaves. This aversion, yes, aversion to natural hair is costing black women physically, emotionally, financially, and socially. Even simple numbers and simple logic aren't on our side. When black women go to hair salons, we're spending 3 times longer than other groups of people. Do you guys actually think that our natural hair is somehow, by the laws of physics, just requiring of all this time and energy, separate from texturism? You say you're wearing wigs because your natural hair is too difficult for you to do. All power to you, but don't try to drown out the very real conversation about natural hair insecurity, because we have statistics about social perception based on the way your hair looks, and that's a lot of what has been historically and even presently influencing the decisions that black women make about their hair. I want what's best for black women, and I will not believe that all these hair gymnastics is the best for us, especially when we're so behind on retirement savings in America, for example. Assimilation is costing us too much. Your natural hair is beautiful. You have to try. It's not going to be easy. You have to, bit by bit, you just have to wear it out, and then you realize, oh wow, I'm saving so much money. My head feels so much lighter. I don't wake up and have a panic attack because of the way my hair looks. There's so many benefits. We have to have the conversation, though, as difficult as it is. Also, anyone who treats you worse for wearing your natural hair is not a good person.
Not only do you have the combination of skin tone and hair texture playing a large role into who we as a society decide to pedestalize or we decide to make the standard, but also who as a society that we decide to pick on, we decide to demonize, and we decide to consider bad or ugly. And so just follow me for a second and let's consider natural hair as the default state for little black girls. I think if we're going based off of one of the points that I brought up earlier about how the straighter textures are a signifier of this idea of coming of age, and you look at little black girls that may have a looser texture that are able to wear their hair down and flowing in the wind, or it just has a little bit more body, versus little black girls that may have coily textures that give a little bit more volume and may not necessarily move as much. I think we tend to see certain praises in certain areas that we don't see in others, and I think it can be very, very discouraging, especially for those that grow up in a community that demonizes them for how their hair naturally grows out of their scalp, or that treats them as though they have to do so much more work in order to look presentable, or in order to be ready to go, or in order to be all done up and look beautiful, because we're not used to putting all hair types on an even playing field, especially not in perception. And so let's talk about natural hair as an accessory or as an enhancement, because from what I have gathered, apparently natural hair is not suitable for whatever event or whatever outfit it is that you're trying to wear on any given day. And I was completely unaware to an extent, because I have been there where I just felt like certain hairstyles, like I don't want to wear my hair down with this hairstyle. Maybe I want to wear a little slick back bun, or maybe I want to wear a high puff or a pineapple. Maybe I want to wear, you know, just a cute little updo claw clip, something like that. But I have never considered the fact that some outfits may look better if I had straight hair or had a silk press. If anything, my experience has been the opposite, because I'm so used to seeing my natural hair out curly, but even for the curly girls that wear their natural hair primarily have brought it to the forefront, or at least the topic of your natural hair not going with every outfit, or at least feeling a little bit insecure about how their natural hair is playing as the accessory or playing as the enhancement for the different types of outfits that they have, and feeling a little bit trapped and pigeonholed in the fact that not only do they want to embrace their natural hair, but they don't necessarily feel like it fits in a moment. Not saying all the moments, but a moment, a manufacturer moment. Maybe you're taking pictures for Instagram. Maybe you're wanting to come on TikTok and record a video. Maybe you're going to a birthday dinner. Your natural hair doesn't fit in that moment. And if I'm being honest, if we see our natural hair as more of an accessory than as a state of being, I can understand why we feel as though it should be interchangeable to fit our aesthetic on any given day.
This is the first time I'm actually gonna style my hair in like 3 weeks. I've just been washing it, slicking it in a bun. Washing it, slicking it in a bun. Part of it is laziness. But another part of it, and I hate to say this, but I'm being honest with myself, is it always goes with my outfit. So we're gonna style a wash and go, and we're gonna talk about it. Now, this does my hair go with my outfit discourse is not new. But I want to start off by saying there's no legitimate reason you can come up with, whether it has to do with length or texture, why hair wouldn't go with an outfit. Right off the bat, that line of thought is Delulu. Okay, I'm Delulu. Let's not get it twisted. It's not about your hair and it's not about the outfit. It's how you feel about your hair in said outfit. And I would just like to preface that the sentiments we're talking about in this video are coming from somebody who is very comfortable with her natural hair. I've been natural for 7 years. I did the big chop. I've had short natural hair, long natural hair, and I wear it natural 90% of the time. That does not mean that I don't have negative thoughts about my hair. Natural hair has never been the default. Like, that's an active decision that a lot of us have to make. And that's why it's never just gonna be hair, because it feels like I'm making a statement when I'm wearing the hair that grows out my head. Like, wearing my fro be feeling very... And that's not a bad thing, per se. It's not my intention, but it tends to be the reaction, because we're still not at a point where wearing your natural hair is normalized or the default. When I first went natural in college, I don't think I went a day without a professor comparing me to Angela Davis. Love that, she's an icon, but at the same time, we're not calling every brunette with long hair Anne Hathaway. And it says something that to this day, Angela Davis is the only like universal point of reference we have to somebody who wears their hair like that. And this is where I feel like things like representation really matter and have an impact, because we're still at a point where Black women wearing the hair that grows out of their head is a statement. So I think I'm at a point where it's nice for my hair to just be neutral, where it's not the first thing you see about me and the last thing you remember about me. And because I don't want to straighten my hair, I sort of default to slick back buns when I want a kind of neutral hairstyle. So when I really got that on, it doesn't feel like my hair is a statement necklace overwhelming the entire fit. All of this is just internalized feelings that I struggle with my hair, because like I said, natural hair is not the standard or the default. And it probably won't be anytime in my lifetime. And after drying and my hair doing its little transformer magic trick, here is the finished look. At the end of the day, this video is not a question of whether or not my hair is beautiful. I know it's beautiful. I just feel like there can be rhetoric from the natural hair community sometimes that if you're not 100% confident in your hair all the time, you just don't love yourself enough. And I don't think that's a healthy or helpful perception. As always, I hope this message reaches somebody who needed to hear it so that you know you're not alone in potentially feeling negative feelings about your hair.
And I think because hair, and not even just natural hair, but just hair in general, has become a way to style yourself, or has become a way to alter your aesthetics, especially in recent couple years, it makes sense as to why people feel a little bit trapped if they can't alter their hair in certain ways as easily as people that have other hair textures. Because I have been there, wanting to do certain styles, and I know you've seen the videos online, wanting to do certain styles that you see that may be popular or trending, but knowing that you're going to have to take your natural hair through this whole thing, jumping through all these hoops in order to get it to do the thing that you're seeing someone else do that may have a different texture, whether that be straight, wavy, or even a looser curl pattern than you, and feeling overwhelmed by the amount of work that can take, knowing that you've already spent a few hours that week trying to get your hair in the state that it is at present.
Hi friends, so I promised to do this style on my hair, but I think I forgot which hair type I have, because towards the end of the video I started to lose my marbles. I had the vision for this hair, but yeah, I don't know, it just wasn't eating. Like and my shrinkage started just becoming very disrespectful. Like I tried to like it, I was moments away from pulling out my hair straightener.
And so I think even though natural hair is quite diverse, because we can do so many things to it, like, I mean, we can straighten it, we can put it into these protective styles, into these braids, we can twist out, braid out, bantu, knot out, blow out, all the things. We can do so much to it, but the convenience is not always there. And I think a lot of it is people looking for something more convenient, and the idea of trying to get your hair to do something that it just doesn't do, and that being a frustration because there's a certain level of fear of missing out because you can't do what other people are doing. I don't know if any of that made sense, but that's where my mind goes. And honestly, when it comes to this part of the conversation, I do really truly believe, and you guys can let me know how you feel, but I truly believe that there is a certain level of lack of understanding about how to style natural hair, and more specifically as it pertains to cuts and other ways of manipulating hair. Whereas I feel like a lot of the times white women, or even just women that have those straighter hair textures, place more emphasis on making their hair fit their features and the different stages of life that they're in. Whereas I feel like a lot of the times with natural hair, sometimes we can be pressured into just having our natural hair be our natural hair because we're going to be labeled as self-haters if we don't, or we have been so overwhelmed by our natural hair that we go the completely opposite way and we want to do wigs and weaves and other ways of styling, or we want to do the protective styles in order to not have to really deal with our hair too much. But I think if we took the same approach as they do, because they're doing all the layers, they're getting the haircuts, they're doing the curtain bangs, and they're doing the highlights, and they're doing all of the things in order to get their hair to fit where they are in their life. Whereas I think whenever it comes to natural hair, because there's such a fear of it being damaged and having to start over and it being an entire journey to grow your hair out or grow your hair back or maintain its health or to treat it from significant damage that you may have had in the past, I think we tend to stay away from things like that. I think because our community, specifically the Black community, places so much emphasis on length of hair, we're scared to get certain cuts. Because we place so much emphasis on natural hair, we're afraid to make certain enhancements, whether that be getting color. And because I think we have made this natural hair thing sort of like a one size fits all kind of thing, if it doesn't look like the model head of natural hair, then we perceive there to be something wrong with it. But honestly, I think if we put more focus in making sure that our natural hair is elevating us as a person, and like this is going to be a case-by-case basis depending on your curl pattern, your texture, your facial structure and shape, you know, your entire aesthetic. If we spent more time trying to figure out how to make our natural hair fit us, I think we would have less of an issue seeing it as childish, because we don't mind doing whatever it takes to make it fit where we are in any given stage of our life. Because I really do believe that how we wear our hair shapes our perception of its appropriateness. So if we're not being intentional about wearing certain hairstyles, whether that be outside of childhood, whether that be outside of doing special events or formal events and things of that nature, then that just further solidifies our perception of our hair not being for those things. And thus we come up with the idea that natural hair is childish. So definitely let me know your thoughts on this specific topic. It's very interesting, and if you want to watch any of my other natural hair commentary videos and conversations that I've just had about natural hair on this channel, you can check out these videos. If you want to see more commentary content from me, you can go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. And before we go, just one more shout out to Readyhubb. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this video. And before I go, I just want to thank you guys one more time for watching this video. I definitely appreciate you. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!